Hello, welcome to Money Matters TV. My name is Paul Mitchell. I'm a commercial banker, and I'm your host for this show. Joining me is Jim DeLorenzo.
Hi, Paul.
Hi, Jim.
Good to see you again.
Jim is the co-host. Jim has his own firm, James DeLorenzo Public Relations.
That's correct.
So welcome to the show again, Jim.
Glad to be here. I always enjoy sitting with you.
My pleasure, too. And we have a very interesting guest, which we'll meet in a few minutes.
Sure.
But in the meantime, Jim, lots been happening out there in the financial and business markets and all. Stock market seems to have gone up over the course of the whole year, ups and downs and all, but still going the right direction. And with a lot of politics going on, sort of made me scratch my head and think about public relations. How do these people try to get themselves to come across and that type of thing? Have you ever dealt with politicians?
I've tried deliberately to stay away from politics in my career, and I think one of the reasons I do that is because I'm not. I want to believe in my clients. I want to believe in what they're doing, and I find that sometimes in the political world you can get caught up in believing in something, but it might not be the right thing for me at that point.
Right.
And I'd rather get involved with small businesses and entrepreneurs and startup companies where I can see something that resonates within me and that I can help tell that story that it will resonate in other people.
Sure. So besides politicians, do you turn away other people that you just don't believe in what they're about or personality-wise?
I've been
whatever?
very picky and choosy, but I tend to work with people who I have a good instinct for. If I get a good gut reaction to someone, I'll want to work with them. If I find somebody that I don't have a good gut instinct about, I will stay away from.
Sure. Now, did you learn that the hard way? Because you just said, well, I need business and I'll take on whatever walks in the door.
I think I did. I did learn that the hard way. There have been a couple instances where I've been involved with projects that, at the end of the day I said, boy, I'll never do that again. And certainly the last 10 years or so I've been in business, I've been able to avoid those situations. And I've gotten much better at it. But at the beginning of my independent career, if you will, when I started my own business, it was a situation where, okay, let me find out more about this. Let me find out more about this. And there weren't many warning signs where I said, ooh, I don't like this. But the signs might have cropped up further along in the relationship. Those initial reactions that I have to people have been very accurate for me. So if I really see something in a first or second meeting where I said, that's not going to work, and I try not to turn anyone away. If I turn anyone away, I try to do it gracefully because I don't want to burn anybody's bridges.
Sure. It makes me think also with all this big data type stuff and social media and all kinds of companies sort of determining what kind of customers they have, who they want to attract, and they do that by getting a lot of information about them, that type of thing. Is there models out there that for a PR person that you would have go through some kind of analysis, and that analysis would determine this is not a good fit for me?
Yeah, there are a lot of different ways. My basic way is someone approaches me out of the blue, if you will, and 99% of my business has come through referral. For 20 years now. Someone approaches me that I've never heard of before. It's important for me to know where they heard about me.
Why are you so blessed?
Right. Why did they hear? Why did they come to me? And at the same time, I want to learn more about them. So for all the good and bad we talk about with Google and LinkedIn and all these other things, I research before I walk into a room.
Okay, good. So you are using big data or data, whatever. Yes.
Yeah. And then I'll also, if someone has referred them to me, I'll call that person and say, what do you know about? And how can I help this person? So it's good to do that research in any instance.
Right.
And I think that's one of the blessings of our information age is that information is out there. Now, there can be some information that is hurtful to people. And I've encountered those situations too, and sometimes my charge has been to help them overcome that bad information. maybe to drive down the search results so that
Yeah.
something negative written about you.
Somebody took something personally and
Right.
is trying to make a big deal of it and that type of thing.
Exactly. And sometimes you can encounter that in business where somebody doesn't like the way business was done, and it can be, taken the wrong way.
Yeah, the chemistry aspect I think is very significant because here we are in this this information age and the internet and all this, information that's all scientifically done and whatever. Who I'm dealing with, who am I going to buy something with, or whatever on the internet, who I've never met. I don't have any chemistry of way determining chemistry. It's just a name, a web page, or something like that.
Yeah.
But there was a time when the internet was very young that people believed, boy, you really can cut costs by not having to meet people.
And there are a lot of people, even to this day in my industry, that neglect the two basic words: public relations.
Mm-hmm.
I love the sit-down meeting. I love the face-to-face. I love the one-on-one interaction with people.
Mm-hmm.
It energizes me and it gives me ideas, and it helps me work better with my clients if I can be one-on-one with them and
Mm-hmm.
we can bounce ideas off each other. I don't think you can do that on the phone. I don't think you can do that online.
Yeah. Well, but is it more expensive for both parties? It's time spent.
It can be. It can be. But I also think there's a value add in the fact that say I have a half-hour meeting with somebody and we bounce ideas off each other for half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those ideas are going to be money-making
Yeah,
ideas
okay.
for my clients.
I like
So,
that.
we're going to come up with something, and it's going to make that meeting worthwhile.
Mm-hmm. That's good. So the person-to-person meetings, does that limit then you geographically how much you
It
can do
hasn't
business?
so far. I mean, I have one client right now who's in Seattle. I hadn't seen him
Wow.
for a while, but I was together with him all last week in Connecticut and Bristol, Connecticut, and Boston, Massachusetts.
Okay.
So I was able to spend 4 days.
Was that a
working
conference
with
or something
It
like
was a media tour and a speaking event
Mm-hmm.
that I booked for him.
Very good.
So I was able to bring him over to the East Coast and get him a chance to meet with all these different people, but also spend some time one-on-one with him so we can develop our ideas for the next go-round.
So how do you get a referral for somebody in Seattle?
Well, I originally met him when he had operations in Cherry Hill, actually.
Oh, okay.
So he had an office in Cherry Hill for a while, and I met him through a prior business contact.
Mm-hmm.
And they connected the two of us together, and 10 years later, we're still working together.
Wow, excellent, excellent. So do you do a lot of networking?
I do.
Huh?
I've been remiss this week because I was scheduled to do a networking event this morning, and I was just too worn out. But I'll be doing. I did a couple events last week. I did a couple already this week, and I'm doing 2 more this week.
Wow. So what kind of advice would you give to our audience if they wanted to have their own business and kind of networking you do, kind of organizations you're talking
Yeah.
about or events?
Just be open to the ideas, and we talk about. I think you and I have talked about this before. Be open to the ideas. Be open to going to an event. If you hear of an event that you think would be interesting, go to it, and don't go to it with any ulterior motive other than just to see what it's about.
Great advice, Jim. Jim, we have a question from one of our
Sure.
people of our audience, and I think you're just the person to respond to it.
I hope so.
The question is from Gary Kelman of Philadelphia, and he asks, what are some moral responsibilities for PR firms to follow when dealing with the public and businesses?
That's an interesting question, and I was doing a lot of soul searching when I heard your question, and I think back to a character in a movie that I love called Miller's Crossing. Now, it's a character actor named John Polito who passed away in the last couple years, but he was a Villanova alumnus, as am I, and he was noted for playing quirky characters, and he was a gangster, and he was discussing the question of ethics, or as he pronounced it, ethics. And in public relations, you have to be ethically sound. You almost have to be like an attorney or a lawyer in being ethically sound and being honest and open with your clients, but also honest and open with the public to the extent that you can be. If you have a client that requests confidentiality on certain things, you respect that and you act in concert with the client. That honesty. The Public Relations Society of America has a code of ethics.
Ah, that's good.
some of the principles are honesty, openness, loyalty, fair-mindedness, respect, integrity, and forthrightness.
Probably could be a Boy Scout too.
Yeah, and I think those are certain, those are words and principles, but you look at it from both sides of I try to look at it from both sides. You want to be honest and open, but at the same time you want to respect the boundaries of your relationship with your client and what's available to the public. So if I know something that's going on, in the commercial banking industry, you have certain areas that you can't talk about in public because it'll affect how business is done.
Sure.
So you want to be aware of those principles and keep those in your daily life.
I like the whole aspect of that the association takes that whole area seriously.
And it's one of those things that maybe a younger public relations person might not be as conscious of as a experienced public relations person might be aware of. And again, we learn by doing.
Sure. Thanks, Jim.
But having that loyalty and having that fair-mindedness and the respect for your client and for your audience.
Good advice. Good advice. That gives me the opportunity now to say to our audience, if you would like to send in your question to Money Matters TV, here's how you do it.
You can have your questions answered on Money Matters. Please go to our website, money-matterstv.com. On our homepage, click on the banner on the right that says Send Us Your Questions. While you're on our website, you can find information about our host and guests, as well as show notes and links about this show and past shows. Money Matters is also available as a podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, so you can listen to Money Matters while you're on the go. That website address, again, is money, MONEY, -matters, MATTERS.
And now we're ready to introduce our featured guest. And now we're ready to introduce our featured guest, Marina Kats, JD of Kats, Jamison Associates. Marina, welcome to the show.
Absolutely pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So you're an attorney, I understand.
I am. I've been practicing law for 30 years.
Wow.
Long time.
Now, what inspired you to get into the law? Because I know, I did a little reading as I was discussing earlier. I try to research these things. And I know that you came here at the age of 17 from the Ukraine.
Correct.
And you really worked your tail off to get through college at Temple. But what inspired you to get into the law?
I always believe in a sense of fairness, and I think lawyers are sort of equalizers. Hopefully everybody do the right thing, and then you don't need a lawyer. But unfortunately, most of the time, sooner or later, something goes wrong. And when clients come to me, especially in a corporate setting, and they say, oh, we are best friends, we're going to open a company together, what should we do? And I always say, well, don't think of it as a best friends today. Think of it as a worst enemy when you come to separate. What do you want to do? What safeguards do you want to have? And today you're great friends. Tomorrow one of the friends says, you know what? Jimmy could work 100 hours a week. I could show up for 3. What are you going to do? Yeah. Or friends become disabled, or friends die. Do you want to be partners with a spouse? And that's something that people should always think about. But people see lawyers in a good time and in the bad times. Getting married, getting a prenuptial agreement, I recommend them highly. Again, because now it's everything wonderful and it's love forever, but we know 50% of the marriages end in divorce. Now statistic is less because less people getting married. But the bottom line is that's what happens.
Right. Do you specialize in corporate law, or is it some other field?
Well, we are probably one of the largest law firms in Bucks County. My office is exactly at intersection of Bucks, Montgomery, and Philadelphia. So we do a little bit of real estate. Different people in my office. Obviously, one lawyer cannot do it all.
Sure.
So I have somebody in my office who does the real estate work. I have somebody in my office who does family law. I have somebody in my office who does criminal work. We have actually 2 people doing immigration now, since it's a hot topic. Right. But mostly what we do is personal injury. That's my specialty, actually.
Okay. Let me just for a second go back to the immigration. So what kind of immigration case do you get involved in?
We get involved in a lot of immigration cases. The one that we do mostly is adjustment of status. So the way I always joke about it, you need a lawyer from beginning to end. So for example, you decide you went to the trip to Ukraine. And in Ukraine, you met a love of your life. So you come back to me and you
Sounds
say,
like one of my nieces.
see? So then you come to me and you say, Marina, how do I bring the love of my life from Ukraine to United States? So what we do is a fiancé visa, and then she comes.
Okay.
Then you say, Marina, I decided I want to marry the love of my life, because on the fiancé visa you have certain period of time or the person has to go back. So we make sure that you have a prenuptial when you marry the love of your life. Then love of your life turned out to be not the love of your life, and now you want divorce. So we can handle a divorce.
Cradle to grave, practically. Yeah.
And that's exactly what I did. My firm is very different than most of the firms out there, because I'm sure you've dealt with many lawyers, and most of them decided that they're going to have a specialty.
Right.
So if you go to the criminal firm, they do only criminal law. You go to the corporate firm.
Insurance.
Yeah.
Or something.
So if you're my client, I would need to send you out for all of the other needs. What I decided to do, which is not necessarily the best financial decision I've made, but it's best emotional decision I've ever made. I decided to keep a different specialties. They're all employees. They're not independent contracted. They're not under one roof. And this way, if you need immigration, you go to room 1. If you need a divorce, you go to room 2. You need the criminal, you go to room 3. You know, on the way back from court, you got involved in a car accident, you come and see me. So we have all the specialties, and this way, you know, you don't have to be sent out, you don't have to meet the new people. You already know that we have a proven track, handle one issue for you, so we could handle more issues.
As just an average consumer, you know, I drive the highways around here and all, and now I'm seeing these huge billboards, these personal injury lawyers, which I never saw before, it seems.
Yep.
What's going on there?
There's a lot of money in the personal injury. We have many multi-million-dollar verdicts in my office. I think people are either on the phone more and they become more reckless, but you see the accidents more and more. I don't think people drive better. I think because we are trying to multitask, as a result of it, we probably have more accidents. And that's what our specialty is, and that's actually what pays for the rest of the departments, because personal injury is a good business.
Now, when you say it's a good business, is it a growth business, do you think?
Yeah, I think as long as there are cars on the road and people are driving them, there'll be an accident. Yes, it's unfortunate. I mean, believe me, I don't wish for anybody to have an accident.
Sure.
I used to have an acquaintance who used to say, I don't wish for anybody to have an accident, but if it happens, I'll make you glad that it did. So we will get you a recovery. That's the bottom line. We can't get you your health back, but we could get you properly compensated for the injury that you sustain as a result of this accident, as long as it is not your fault in an accident.
Right.
So many of these people don't even carry insurance anymore. Where does the money come from in that case?
I'll explain to you. First of all, when you purchase your insurance, you have an option to purchase on your policy uninsured or underinsured coverage. It's available. Your insurance agent has to tell you about it. And unfortunately, not every insurance agent tell you everything they're supposed to, because at the end of the day, they work for the insurance company. Very few of them work for you. So the first thing you have to make sure that you have uninsured motorist on your policy.
It's going to cost more, but
it costs you, but it doesn't cost you that significantly more. It might be a couple $100 a year. I mean, I'm not saying couple hundred is not significant amount.
Relatively speaking,
But at the end of the day, you're fully protected. And also, there's another provision on your policy called underinsured motorists. So if, God forbid, you're involved in an accident and the injury you suffer is greater than what's the other person insured for, you'll be able to go to your policy and have additional recovery. So there is, if you buy a proper insurance, again, what a lot of insurance companies trying to push on the consumer, which I think is terribly wrong, is a limited tort option. And limited option means exactly what it says. It limits your right to sue. There's certain exception apply. There's 4 exceptions, but at the end of the day, what you should do as a consumer, never to buy that option and
Yeah.
select a full tort option.
Mhm.
And if your insurance agent tries to talk you out of it, you should try and question their motivation for it.
Mhm.
Now, are there other types of personal injury cases that you see besides auto accidents?
We see a lot of slip and fall, especially now
Oh,
winter's
yeah.
coming up. So that's our busy season for slip and falls. And also, there's a lot more neglected properties out there, which is also
Interesting.
very, very strange concept now. You would think City of Philadelphia is on upswing. We all hear that so many people moving into City of
All these houses
Philadelphia.
being rehabbed, sure.
Yeah, and there is still a lot of properties
Yeah.
out there.
I think tens of thousands of
Yeah.
properties that are
I
falling
would-
apart and
yeah.
occupied or squatters or whatever
Yep.
mess they're in.
Exactly, and you
Sure.
walk by and you fall on that
Mhm.
pavement and you break something, you have a cause of action.
Mhm.
And that's something that consumers should be aware of. Somebody negligent, I'm not saying necessarily should be punished, but people should pay for their neglect.
Mhm.
And if you're injured, there's nothing wrong with seeking an attorney
Mhm.
and trying to get compensation, because but not for that injury, you would not be in the position you are.
I hear that the United States has more lawyers, by a long shot, than any other country. Many countries have a lot less, and there's a lot less litigation. Is that true, or is that just a myth? Or
I am not sure if we really have more lawyers. I am sure we do have a significant number of lawyers, and we need them. At the end of the day, everybody poo-pooing a lawyer until they need one.
Mhm.
And then my lawyer is the best lawyer in the world.
Yeah.
I think it's very, very important to have good lawyers that you can consult with, good time or bad time. We probably have more personal injury lawyers than any country in the world, because our laws are in such a way that you don't get a fair compensation unless you hire a lawyer. In a lot of countries, what you have is either free medical care,
Mhm.
that you don't need a lawyer to
Right.
recover your
Right.
medical bills.
Mhm.
In our country, we don't have that, unless there's certain exception to the rule apply. But at the end of the day, it is. Now, even now, with a third-party negligence, your medical providers want to get paid through the insurance company,
Mhm.
and then the insurance company has what is called subrogation, and they're trying to get their money back for
Yeah.
what they pay for your medical bills.
Yeah, yeah.
So we are in this continuous
on, yeah,
rigmarole. We're not any more litigious society, I think, than
Okay.
anybody else. I think we were brought up what's fair is fair, and to seek always a fairness. So I see nothing negative with the individuals to try to get what's fair
Mhm.
and just for them.
You've come back to the fair, what's fair is fair. How important of a principle is that for you in your life and in your career?
100%. That principle I guide my life by. I will take the case on not necessarily because it has a great recovery value. I mean, that's important. But I will take the case on just because it was unfair for academic pursuit. And I've taken many cases for the sake of academic pursuit. Thank God, the firm is doing well and we could afford some of those detours.
Right.
But yeah, if somebody did you wrong and you have no recovery because you don't know how to go about it, I think we should stand up for that person. That's a great thing about America. We always root for underdog,
Yeah.
and we don't let 900-pound gorilla to sit where they want.
Mhm.
There's always there somebody who will defend or interested in defending, as long as you find the right person.
Right.
Sounds like you have a pretty busy firm. How do you market your services? We heard Jim does it primarily with referrals. He doesn't put up billboards on I-76 or anything.
Well, actually, we do marketing. 99% of my business is actually word of mouth.
Mhm.
Believe it or not, especially when I came to United States, I was the first lawyer from the former Soviet Union who spoke Russian and Ukrainian. So I got a lot of clients from the immigration because we all came about the same time.
And there's a
and
pretty good Ukrainian population in Northeast Philadelphia.
Yeah, and that's where my office is actually where Northeast Philadelphia ends and Bucks County begins.
Not an accident.
Not an accident.
No pun
No, it's
intended.
done by. Yeah, exactly. That's a cute one. I like that. No, my actual address is 1 Bustleton Pike.
Yeah.
So that's exactly where Bustleton Avenue, which is I call it Great White Way,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and but Bucks County begins.
Mhm,
No,
mhm.
it's not an accident. No.
Mhm.
And there is a big Russian community
Yeah.
and there's a big Ukrainian
Right.
community there.
Mhm.
And a lot of them my clients. And I will tell you a funny story. I usually don't ask clients where they come from. They came, I'm glad to see you. I don't want people to feel like, oh, if I came without good, important person referring, maybe you're not going to treat me as well. So I usually don't ask the same way I don't ask my receptions to screen the calls. If it's somebody calls and asks for me, they transfer the call and I pick up the phone, say, this is Marina Kats, and then I find out who's on another end of the phone. So at one time, I probably had too much free time on my hands, and this lovely couple was in front of me, and I said, and how did you find out about me? They were a Russian couple. And they said, you know what, asking somebody from the immigrant community how you found out about Marina Kats is the same thing as asking an American person, how do you find out about post office? So that's basically marketing. But
That's
I
a
am
testament to,
Yeah,
to what you've been doing.
But I am advertising in the Russian papers, and I am on the cover of the Yellow Pages, and we do the Google AdWords,
Okay.
and we do the social media, and we are on the Facebook, and we're on LinkedIn, whatever we are.
Okay. Well, and if somebody sees this show and says, gee, how do I contact Marina Kats? What should they do?
Well, the best thing is to call. I'm still old-fashioned. Rather than emailing me, call 215-396-9001 or 1-800-LAW, what I practice. 1917 is a year of Russian Revolution.
Sure.
So you can't forget that number. So it's 1-800-LAW 1917. They could just stop by the office. We have walk-ins, believe it or not. My office, still like old-fashioned place, has a walk-ins, and we'll see you.
That's great.
So how about if somebody Googled you? I don't remember all that stuff that Marina said. So, but it was I'll Google Ukrainian law firm. Would they find you?
No, I think they need to Google either Philly Lawyers,
Okay.
because that's our website, Philly Lawyers.
That's a good
They
one.
could Google Marina Kats, and
Okay.
they find it. It's
All right.
Kats, by the way. It's a different spelling.
Okay.
It's sort of Eastern European spelling.
Uh-huh.
They could Google Kats, Jamison Associates.
Okay.
That's the name of the firm.
Well, that's
or-
good. A lot of different ways to do it. Just wanted to make sure that our audience,
Yes.
be able to find a top-notch experienced
Members of
lawyer.
the audience is welcome. Tell your friends, tell your family, anybody else. Wherever I go, I give my business card, and I teach my staff, your business cards
Right,
don't do you
right.
any good in your pocket.
That's right.
So as more as you give it to people, they'll remember
Marina,
you.
you have a great story.
Thank you so much.
Welcome again to the United States. It's
Thank
great
you.
having you here.
Thank you,
You're
thank
making
you,
it a better
thank you.
place.
I certainly hope so. Immigrants make this country great, as long as we abide by our laws.
Right.
And learn English and do what we are supposed to do and take the oath and willing to live and die for this country.
Excellent advice. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So our next guest will be Marion Mass, MD, of the firm practicingphysicians.org. So that concludes our show. And just remember that on this show, your money matters.